Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. Frank Warren's Queensberry Promotions has added another heavyweight to its burgeoning stable at heavyweight, adding Vladyslav Sirenko, the unbeaten Ukrainian fringe contender, to the stable. So what we'll do is we'll go through the press release and a couple of comments about some of Sirenko's recent moves in terms of, what he's been doing, and then a few thoughts, because this could open the door for Sirenko, who, in my view, he really has had a stalled out career in the past couple of years. So he needed something to happen. So this is huge for him. So as you can see here, the press release from Queensberry, the headline, Vladyslav Sirenko joins Queensberry. So he's signed a promotional agreement, talks about the 6'4" Ukrainian, going back to the early days of his career and sort of stepping through what he's done. So in terms of the comments, so you've got Vladyslav Sirenko saying, "I'm excited for the future and working with Queensberry Promotions. I'm looking forward to being involved in some of the biggest fights in the heavyweight division over the next few years. And I feel like Frank and George Warren, alongside my manager Keith Connolly, can make that happen for me. My goal is to put the name in the history books of boxing, and the only way I achieve that is being involved and winning the big fights. The heavyweight division is back to being the focus of the boxing world, and I plan on making a name for myself over the next few years." And you have Frank Warren saying, "I'm thrilled to welcome Vladyslav, and he knows he's in very good company with the number and quality of top heavyweights we have here at Queensberry. Vladyslav is clearly an emerging talent who will quickly make himself very well known in the division, especially given his exceptional KO ratio." That might be over-egging things a little bit. We'll talk about that. Warren also adds, he is at the point now where he wants to be challenged further and put in the biggest fights, which is what we're able to deliver for him. So Vladyslav Sirenko, he's got a record currently 21-0, 18 knockouts, but don't let that deceive you. Sirenko is a good fighter, a good technician, but he doesn't have massive power. He's got good pop, he's got a good left hook, a good right hand, but he's not a huge punch. He's not a knockout artist by any stretch. Currently 29 years old, and if we just quickly go through the record, because I know not everyone's super familiar with him, but he has been a road warrior, and an interesting thing was he started his career in South Africa, and he's also fought in the United States, Austria. He's fought in Germany, also his home country of Ukraine. And after a couple of years where he started to have what you would consider those, usual step through progression fights before you get to a level where you're really tested, he had those fights like Konstantin Doboshenko, Kamil Sokolowski, faded Alexander Ustinov, Andrei Rudenko. A lot of guys face similar opposition on the way up. So by 2021, he was ready for a bit of a breakthrough moment. And then just things never happened for him, whether that was through the promotional or management side or whatever else was happening with his career. It just stalled, and he hasn't been able to get any real traction. He's returned in 2024 with fights against Dion Ronnie Hale and also Keith Barr. But for a guy who's 21-0, Keith Barr really is a sort of, you fight him between your 10th and 15th fight, there or thereabouts. Maybe even a little earlier for some heavyweights who are a little more advanced. So currently he's the number 3 Ukrainian, and BoxRec says he's the number 37 heavyweight in the world. And I think that ranking of 37 at the moment, that's pretty fair. That's kind of where I see him at the moment. He's a guy with sort of top 25 to top 30 talent, but I think he's one of these guys that at a certain point he will sort of come up short. I think, he fights well and he puts his shots together, but there's just something I'm not sure that without any real progression in his style or just able to sort of improve, I think he is going to be a guy that I think at a certain level he's going to be in some good fights and deliver fans some good action, but I'm not projecting that he's going to be in some of the big fights that maybe he thinks he's going to be in. as you know, if you've followed this channel for any real length of time, I've followed and covered Vladyslav Sirenko for years, and I've been calling for a step up, hoping he would get an opportunity. So this is huge for him. We will get to see how good Sirenko is. So he actually, on Box Record, does have him with a TBA fight for the 1st of October. Perhaps that's going to be cancelled. But one of the other questions I have is, because in recent years you had the likes of Zan Kosobutsky and also Peter Milas, they signed sort of co-promotional type deals with Frank Warren, was never exercised. But this is a full-on signing. They've had a full-on press release. He's been added to the website already. So, he's just been announced, boom, up on the website. And as you can see, he joins a stable full of heavyweight riches. Tyson Fury, Daniel Dubois, Joseph Parker, Zhang Jilei, Joe Joyce, Derek Chisora, Fabio Wardley, Moses Itoma, Solomon Dakers, David Adelai. So, it's a huge stable. And as someone pointed out recently, Boma Brown had signed to Frank Warren some time ago, but he's not on the website. Not sure what's happening there, but that's by the by. But I wouldn't mind seeing, so if we look at, I guess, potential matchups within the Queensberry stable, and then if he's going to be on the sort of the Saudi path, at the moment, I think he almost needs a fight, in the UK against one of Warren's heavyweights or someone they bring in to face him, just to introduce him, but also show where he's at and prove that he deserves to be on what he would say is a big fight on a Saudi card. Or, I don't think some of us, for some fights on Saudi cards, would say that they're all big, but you know what I mean. So you have, I think, a logical matchup would be David Adelai. Vladyslav Sirenko in recent years has been relatively inactive, and, some of the better opposition that he's faced, you've had a faded Andrei Rudenko, a faded Alexander Ustinov, Kamil Sokolowski, that went the distance. I mean, you had a case against Konstantin Doboshenko. He got rocked in that one. That was a card that Alexander Usyk put on, I believe, and he was featured on the undercard. So I think someone like David Adelai, who himself has been an improving fighter, that could be quite an interesting test and matchup. There was meant to be David Adelai in a fight with Solomon Dakers. It never happened, and Dakers is now being ordered to face Moses Itoma for the English title. So we're not really sure what's happening with David Adelai at the moment, but I wouldn't mind seeing that. And if you have a case that Sirenko goes in there, it looks good, did a number on him, which there's no guarantees that would happen, but if he did go in there and perform well, you could actually match him potentially, say a Fabio Wardley lost to Fraser Clark, or even a win against Fraser Clark. Sirenko is sort of that European level, or sort of, lower European level at this point based on who he's fought. That could make some sense and be logical progression for either Wardley or Vladyslav Sirenko. The winner kind of moves on. Same to Sirenko versus David Adelai. This could be a situation where he's been brought in to really be a bit of a yardstick for some of these other heavyweights within the Warren stable. The other option, is going that Saudi route, that sort of thing. If they really want to throw him in there, see what he's got, what about him versus Guido Vianello? Quite like to see that. I think there are some potential matchups that you could make. Guys that have either been inactive of recent times, we don't know where they're at, like a Michael Hunter, or potentially guys that have come off losses, Otto Wallin, what about Jermaine Franklin? There's some guys potentially you could throw him in there with. And I think for a lot of the fights, he would probably be seen as the underdog given his own inactivity. And I just don't know if we really know how good he is. And that's the thing at the moment with Sirenko. He's got a pretty record. Is Frank Warren bringing him in so that one of his guys or someone else that they match him with, potentially on a Saudi card, can take the O and take the credit? Something to consider. But yeah, it's good to see that Sirenko has been, active more recently after a couple of years out where just nothing was happening with him. He faced Keith Barr, his last fight. He got the win there. So he's got a, WBC trinket there. All those things add up. People, put them on the line. Eventually, if you keep winning, they'll lead to something. So it's good to see Sirenko from Ukraine, who's kind of been a road warrior, fought in a lot of different places. And it was kind of random when he was fighting in South Africa, because it never completely made sense. But he made his sort of stand out there for a couple of years, and it did help build his profile a bit. So I want to see Sirenko tested. I mean, it's well beyond time for him to have a proper step-up fight. At 29 years old, maybe step-up fight's not the right word, but a fight that will see him tested and that we can really sort of see who he is. Because at the moment, we've seen flashes. He's looked good in some fights. He's had a few shaky moments. Hard to take much from faded guys like Rudenko and also Alexander Ustinov. And Kamil Sokolowski, if you're good enough, you're always going to beat him. That was a yardstick for a while. He beat Konstantin Doboshenko, took a big shot on that one, but sort of gutted through and ended up getting the win there. So I like the signing. I mean, Frank Warren's stable is kind of crazy now. Easily the best heavyweight stable in the world. The only one that would rival it is Top Rank stable. They've got a number of guys that are signed there as well, more than you probably would think. But, you got a stable here. You got 4 of the top 10 heavyweights currently floating around. So hard to beat that. Anyway, what do you make of Vladyslav Sirenko? I know not everyone would have seen him or known a lot about him, but this is a decent signing. And for Sirenko, this is a huge shot in the arm for his career. Drop a comment loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter. Boxing_squared. I'm out.